Josh, what brought you into haunted house?
I've been wanting to haunt for a while, so that's pretty much it. I mean, I know the JC's was doing a haunted house in, what was it, 2020, I think? Something like that.
2019.
Yeah. And then I joined up with my friend who did it years prior, so I knew how to sign up or whatever. And then that's pretty much it. I just started from there.
What about you, Alex?
So, it's basically how Josh's story went. Is I tried to do it with a friend, Nick, but like I kind of like I did the forming out and all that stuff, but like I quit halfway through because I wasn't really motivated to do it. But then Josh asked if I wanted to go with him to do this haunt, which was unfortunately the final year of the Wyandotte JC's doing the haunted house in City Hall. So that was unfortunate timing, but that's where it started.
How I started haunted house is actually kind of a funny story. It was either 2018 or 2019, and it was just me and a group of friends just wanting to go through a haunted house, and the closest one near me was the one that the Wyandotte JC's was running. So we go through, and there's still a video on Facebook of Caleb Diem scaring the crap out of me and quite literally falling back onto the floor and into my group of friends, so we all fell down like bowling pins. And then I go through the whole thing, and right at the end, Faith, the girl who was working there at the time, she literally just handed me a flyer and was like, "You should do this." And I was like, okay. So filled out the flyer, came back the next day, and then some girl's hair got ripped out by a chainsaw. So the night got ended very early, like very early.
Wow.
So what's your guys' favorite, like, character that you've ever had to do?
I'll go for something funny here. The first night at JC's, I played a little girl, and I feel like that was the funniest one. Just because halfway through the night, a drunk dude went in and thought I was an actual chick because of the voice I did. And halfway through, he was like, "Oh man, you're really hot." And I was like, "Thanks, bro." And he was like, "Oh, that was a dude?" Yeah. He lost his mind.
What about you, Alex?
I think the best character that I've done was like my own character that I brought in, because it seems like nobody wanted to do the fortune teller room.
You're 100% right.
So I was just like, Joel just put me in there, and I was like, all right, whatever, I'll roll with it. It was basically my cult leader character with like a deer head mask on it and stuff. So I think that's the best character I think I brought to the haunted house.
If I had to think about my favorite character, it was probably with Purgatory. And that was when the first couple of days there was a girl that was doing it, but then something happened so she couldn't do it anymore. So then I eventually took over that role for her, and like I kept that role consistent for the entire like rest of the Purgatory season. She didn't have a name. I never really came up with a name, but like her entire premise was like she was stuck in purgatory because she killed herself because of like the way that her mother was treating her and how she would perceive how she looked in a bad way. She was my favorite. What's your favorite scene? Not even from just like a haunted house that you've been to, like by yourself, like a haunted house that you worked at or that you've been to. Like what's been like your favorite scenery that you've seen?
This one's not easy.
Not easy?
No, because there's so many haunted houses I've been to, and there's a lot of good ones. I'm gonna go with Deranged for sure, especially most recently when they put the cult scene in there.
The cult scene, yeah,
I think
cool.
it looks so cool the way they designed it and everything into the woods, and slowly getting into the cult area. It's very put together.
So the cult area is your favorite, like
Yeah.
all time?
Maybe not all the time. I'll get there eventually, but it's up there today.
What about you, Alex? You got one?
So I don't remember much because I used to go to haunted houses when I was like a little kid, but I don't remember much. So the only memorable I can think of is like the one that we worked at, and basically like the Neon Clown room was my favorite room. My favorite scenery. That and the cotton candy room.
The cotton candy, yeah, no, the cotton candy cocoons are cool.
Oh yeah.
Because I know with Deranged, they also did cotton candy cocoons. I think the cotton candy cocoons are neat.
I wanted to take a few of those things home, but didn't have enough room in my house. So.
Few of them
You
home.
took everything home.
I did.
From that.
I didn't take a mannequin though. So.
Yeah, good point.
Those are,
You guys ever experienced any haunt injuries? Any?
Nothing major like broken bones or anything, but I definitely, almost every haunt night I come home bruised and very sore.
Person very sorry.
Yeah.
But you, Alex, you got one?
So every night that I worked at the haunted house, I would come home with just bruises because I would slam into. I did this thing where I slammed into all the walls, just my whole body, just to scare the people, like either in the next room or get them ready for the next room. So, yeah, a lot of bruises, a lot of cuts, a lot of injuries, a lot of blood being spilled, figuratively, thematically, and literally.
Got this one time, think I was 14 and I had knocked over a table. This was before the haunt, but the injury still led into the haunt. So what happened was I split my finger open really bad to the point that I needed stitches, and I texted my manager at the time, Joel, and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it today. And he basically was like, tough it up, kid. You can make it and you can do it. So that's what I did. And the entire night, I just had a Band-Aid over it. So there was blood going down from my hands everywhere. So at the end of the night, we had a nurse who was volunteering there, and she was butterfly stitching my finger together. And Joel is just in the background with his little camcorder just getting all up in there while I'm in so much pain and so irritated. All right. What about scares? Juicy scares, like good scares.
Okay. It was last year, and I was in the sewers at Deranged, and there was just a group of like really tall guys, and their girlfriend was like way in the back for some reason, because I guess she wanted to be scared the most or something. And I didn't even scare her, I scared her boyfriend. And I got him so good to the point where he jumped back and punched me in the chest. And I was like, well, he got scared. He didn't like genuinely mean to hit me, so like he can finish the haunted house, but
I've had a kid punch me in the face before.
it's so surprising where they just
happens.
pull back and boom, and you're like, oh, okay. There's always the scene in the church too, because I was there pretty much almost all last year. And I always like when they walk in and they look around, they're like, oh, nobody's in here. And then you pop up behind the church pew or whatever it's called, and they like, people lose it.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to do something when you don't expect it, especially after you're like, oh, no one's in here, we're good.
What about you, Alex?
So I think the best scare that I've ever done, Josh joined in with me on this one. Let me tell you, most nights at the haunted house that we were working at the JCs, we didn't get like rooms next to each other, but when we did, we raised hell. So I was in the laboratory. Was it the laboratory with the cage and stuff?
It was the oddities.
The oddities room, and Josh was in the doctor's room. Mm-hmm. So we both hatched a plan where like Josh would lead the groups like into the oddities room, and there's like a little corner on the wall where like just enough where a human can fit behind. So as Josh was like, currying them down the hallway, I jumped out and just started crawling all over. And scared the crap out of people. It's amazing.
I gotta think about my favorites here, because I've got quite a bit, but like, I like the ones that are kind of funny too. Like, for instance, this one time, my brother came through Purgatory, and my brother, he will always come to like every single haunt that I've done. And like, even if it's just like for one night, he's always there. But the first time that he went through with Purgatory, that was when I was in the room that I was talking about before, where we were talking about favorite characters. And basically, the premise of that room is you're standing like there's a strobe light at the top, and then if you stand still enough, you're gonna look like a mannequin with the other mannequins that are in there. So the scare was just perfect. My brother is a very tough dude who's like, nothing's gonna scare me here. I'm gonna walk through with a straight face. But that was the first year. No, sorry, the second year that I acted, and the only time I ever scared my brother is I popped out and he fell so hard on the ground he had spoons in his pocket because he's a chef and the spoons just went everywhere, all over the floor. That was great. That's gotta be my favorite. So Alex, from my understanding, you got added into, what was it? It's just Circus Sinister? Is that when you started?
Circus Sinister.
You got
yes.
added mid-season, right?
Yep.
What was your experience with that, joining mid-season?
It was a little weird because like I've done like acting before, kind of like in high school, and I was in theater where no one really looked at me weird when I get to act weird. So it was like I felt like it was like, oh, you know, this could be like my time to shine and be the weirdest I can be. But like first night, Joel put me in the it's slipping my mind, the cotton candy room. And I didn't know what I was doing, so I kind of just scared the little kids and made jokes to the adults. But then I was put into the fortune teller's room, and I seemed to do a lot better in there. And then once I was comfortable enough in there, in that room, I asked Joel, hey, could I bring my own stuff in there? Like, could I bring in Andrew, the cult leader? And he's like, yeah, sure. Like, I mean, it fits, kind of. So I was like, he's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And then... Then I started experimenting with like being in different parts of the room and stuff, trying to hide and stuff. And then I started crawling on the ground, started acting like the Grudge and stuff. And then there was this one time where I was acting like an animatronic, and this guy like put in like a $10 bill right next to me. He's like, you're gonna move, right? And then I didn't move, and he just walked out of the room. So I was like, $10, I guess. I guess I'm that good.
Did you join mid-season too?
No, I was at the beginning.
You were at the beginning. What year?
2020, something like that.
So was it also Circus Sinister or was it Purgatory? What was your
Circus
experience?
Sinister.
Because from my understanding, that was like first time scare acting, right? Mm-hmm. How was your experience with that, going into like a completely new environment?
It wasn't easy, but I liked the new environment, the new feeling of it, being just thrown into something you've never done before. Especially playing that little girl, it was priceless.
Oh, can you tell us more about that little girl? I want to know more.
I was wearing a tutu and like a pink, I think it was a pink jacket, and then I had a black wig on with like kind of like pigtails. I think I was holding something. Maybe not. But it was like fresh out of the mirror room at Circus Sinister. And so I had to lead people into like the fair part of the whole haunted house. It was a new experience. My voice hurt so much because I had to do that high-pitched girl voice.
Cough drops and water. So what about some favorite behind the scenes? Like the stuff that the customers don't get to see. Do you have any favorite moments?
Maybe picking out my face paint. I feel like that's the funnest part. And just going through the haunted house before getting all my face paint on and everything, like scoping out the new things, what I could do, what I couldn't do in the area that I've been assigned. And just having fun with the scare actors. Everybody has good personalities and like to work with other people, so I think that's the funnest part of behind the scenes.
Do you have any favorites behind the scenes?
So, me and Josh have been friends for a long time, so I kind of blossomed when I was there, being myself, so I can interact with the others a lot better since Josh was there. I think, like, a lot of my favorite things were, like, you know, before everybody started coming in, you know, when I was in the animal room. Was it the animal room? because I know the
Oh
cemetery,
yeah, there was an animal room.
the cemetery was like right next to it, I think.
I think so. It was. I know it was the room Kira was in for pretty much the whole season. The beginning
For
of it
what?
for Circus
Circus
Sinister.
I was in the front room the entire
Yeah.
year.
And then it was the coffin room, which I was in for the end of the year. And then it was the animal room, and then the fortune teller. So I have no idea.
Regardless, you were right there next to me, so I loved how we get to like share plans and stuff if we could, because like sometimes we would just like, there was some people that would just talk about doing stuff together in their own rooms. But like me and Josh would always just hatch up these schemes like, all right, how are we gonna do this? Like, how are we gonna scare these people and stuff? I really love those kind of moments. Especially the time that Josh literally climbed up the pillars in the oddities. he just started hanging off like this. It was so funny.
I had a really funny experience with Deranged 2 years ago. And I was working in a little drop window next to my friend Aaron. And I'm doing my bit, and I hear him do his bit, but then all I can hear is just insane amount of gagging. So all I did was I walked through, there's like a little grass area in between all the walls, and I walked past there, and he's just hunched over, puking straight through his mask. Like, he had a mask on, like, before, like, the clown mask, and he was just puking everywhere. So instinct, I look at it, and I just turn around, and then when he's done, he comes up to me, and he's like, that lady just shit her pants. I smelt it, and I didn't know what to do, so I just came back, and I threw up everywhere. That was great, but honestly, that was terrible, because then you had to deal with the throw up in the grass all night, and it's like right in the middle of where we're trying to get through to our areas. That was bad.
That reminds me of something. Last year, me and Kelvin were pretty much stationed right next to each other. So he was in the movie theater, and I was like in, I don't even know what the area was called, but like they had like hot dog stands and pizza stands and
Oh,
stuff.
Feeney's Weenies.
Yes, that was it. And like nobody was going through for like 15, 20 minutes. I'm like, what is going on? And I walk over there, and there's just a pile of vomit right there.
Oh my
Some kid
gosh.
just like threw up. I don't know what happened. And I walk over there, and here comes Kelvin, and he goes, there's the vomit right there. And he starts dry heaving. I couldn't help but laugh because it was just hilarious.
That's terrible. Too many throw up stories in the haunt.
Yeah.
That's so bad. Have any of you got sick? Like at the haunt before? Ever?
Nope.
Fortunately, no.
Like no throwing up?
Even with Kelvin's stinky fingers, yeah,
I threw up last I threw up last year, but it was before like all the operations kept going. I was like really sick, and like the brightest idea that I had is I'm gonna chug a Sprite, and I chugged a Sprite, and I to throw up like all over like the back of the porta potty.
That'll
That
do
was
it.
terrible. That was so bad. I had to go home. That's how bad it was.
I was gonna say this earlier, but we changed subjects or whatever, but I'll bring it back. One of my favorite scares was when I got you.
I don't remember you scaring me ever,
Well-
so you gotta explain in like full detail.
Okay, so it was right after the entrance of Circus Sinister, after like the people, mannequins on the bleachers and stuff, and you were visiting, I think it was like a Sunday or something like that, and you walked in, and they have the casket, because it was like, you know, the owner of the circus died or whatever, and I was underneath the casket, and you knew I was there. I don't know who you were in with.
Oh, I remember.
I think it was after like homecoming or something.
Yeah, no, it was homecoming day because I literally showed up in my homecoming dress.
Yeah, and you knew I was under there, and you were like, Josh, I know you're under there. I know you are. And I crawled out and still got you. And you were like, I hate you so much. And you were like, even down the hall, you were like, I still hate you, Josh. I know you're there. And I was
That's-
like, it was hilarious.
That's such a me thing. I don't do crawling at all. I don't do that at all. Shoot, I had a story. when you were talking about it, and I can't. Oh, I remember. Okay. So the same night that I walked through, Joel was working my front room that day. And everybody, I feel like, in like that haunt scene knows that I don't do crawling, and it scares the crap out of me. And I walked through, and with me not knowing Joel was in there at all. So I walk in, and there's no one there, and I'm super confused. And this man comes crawling, like not like crawling, he's like putting his whole body weight on both of his hands, and he's crawling like that, not using his legs, and he was making paraplegic jokes.
Yeah, that's a Joel thing to do.
It happens. It happens. Did you ever scare any of like our actors that went through? You probably scared me, but
Yeah, I think I scared you with the whole crawling on the
yeah,
ground,
that's
acting
common.
like a cryptid.
Yeah, that
thing
happens.
in the fortune teller's room.
So your guys' strategies for getting into character, like your go-to, like right before you get into set, and to get in the mindset, what do you do?
First, I base it off what I'm wearing. The second I'm in costume, my brain just starts ticking and what I should do and what character I should do. Usually, like the first 2 or 3 groups will come in, and I'll just experiment with different characters. And then once I find it for the night, that's it for the rest of the night. Usually, I go for sarcastic characters
I know.
or. Oh, I'm sure you do.
I know.
And I usually try to make people laugh. But usually I lead with a scare and then make them laugh and lead them into other scares. I just like taking people's attention, bringing it somewhere else, and then somebody else getting a chance to scare them.
What you, Alex?
So, how my brain works is basically like I'm already weird enough as it is, and I act weird enough. So, being a really creepy, unhinged, cryptid-like being really is what I go for. So how I go about that is basically, all right, Alex, you're weird. Be you. Just be you. And that's basically how it works. Just try to act as unnatural and abnormal as possible.
I don't really have a strategy. I legit don't think that I have a strategy. I think I'll just go in, and then like when I'm standing there waiting for the first people to go through, I'll just think in my head, like, all right, I'm gonna say this, and then if that doesn't work with the next group, I'll just use a different line, or I'll try a different scare. But I don't think I really like think about it too hard. Like, I just kind of jump into it, and I think like that kind of works. And then when you develop those characters, like what goes through your head when you're like trying to make someone that's not you, that's someone that's like completely fiction?
It's a great question. It's kind of one of those things where you kind of learn over time almost. I guess reading off of people's emotions on how they respond to certain things. And once you find it, what creeps a majority of people out, it pretty much works for a good group. So, I mean, that's kind of the way I think about it.
You know, for me, depending on like the type of character that I'm going for, like saying like I'm going for a person that's like deranged in the head and like they're supposed to act that way, I'll research different types of mental illnesses so I can help get my headspace more into that person's headspace. That seems like the best strategy. What about you, Alex?
Like these two said, like majority of it is research and, you know, seeing how people, like what makes people tick, the most common fears, like spiders or unnatural movement, mannequins, and just try to play on those into your character so you'll get the most reaction and the most scares out of everybody. If those don't work, just try to be completely normal. I did that once, and people were so confused and so scared. They didn't know if I was gonna jump out at them or anything. I was just like, hi, and they just like, hi. and then I did the most spontaneous thing. I ran right at all the group, like after they left my room into the hallway, and I scared them so much that they kind of missed the scare that was going. I still feel bad for that because I got them to miss out on another scare. But I scared them all so bad they all ran, they trampled on each other, and they ran out to the room into the next scare.
I also found that making fun of people, like playfully making fun of people, can really get under people's skin. Like something that they're wearing, like I had a dude come through one time and he was wearing a bright red, like Adidas tracksuit. I had to say something about that. I'm like, who is walking in here wearing a bright red Adidas tracksuit? But what's even worse about, I can't remember what I said, but I can remember like the tracksuit, because like it's in my head. But I think his girlfriend got really mad at me for saying something about the tracksuit because she bought him the tracksuit. So, what position were either of you like put in where like you were going to go act that night and you ended up getting put in a position that you really didn't want to be in, but it ended up working in the end?
I almost feel like every single position I've been in, but I like to be challenged in that sort of way of like, let me make this work somehow. It might be just paintings on a wall, but I'm gonna make this work.
Or just cracking jokes.
Yeah, or just cracking jokes. I mean, I seem to make it work every time, so I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing.
Are you, Alex, ever been disappointed?
I mean, like, when I was going into the haunted house, I didn't really know what to expect. So I didn't really have a standard. So I worked with what I was given. And it seemed I made it work out in the end, because the cotton candy room, you know, everybody was laughing, having a good time, everybody was getting scared. And then when I was in the fortune teller's room, you know, I developed my own thing, and I developed like crawling on the ground, like The Grudge and stuff, and I scared the crap out of a lot of people. Mm-hmm. When I was in the oddities room, I was like right next to Josh's room, so we basically tag team a lot of the time. So it pretty much worked out a lot. There wasn't any really themes that I wasn't really, you know, I wasn't used to, I guess. Like the plant theme in the other room, the Little Shop of Horrors one. I think that was the Little Shop of Horrors.
It was a reference, yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much.
But like, I wouldn't really know what to do in that situation. But again, I probably would have like figured out something. So it basically just, I went with the flow, I guess.
For Circus Sinister, it's actually really funny because the spot that I was in for the entire year, the first night I complained really hard to Joel about how I did not want to be there because I wanted to be in the funeral room. That's where I initially wanted to be. And I remember that I think it was Logan at the time who was working there like in the beginning. Okay, I'm not crazy. But yeah, no, I complained really hard to Joel. Like, I did not want to do the Ringmaster. I didn't think it was a good concept for me. But it ended up actually working out really well. Because I didn't think that there was, like, a lot of good scare points in that room. But there was a podium that was, like, right behind a ledge where if you just stood there and just stood still, they're going to think that you're fake. And then any movement, it'd freak anyone out. So it worked out. So glad he didn't move me after I begged him to move me.